Welcome back to our Annapurna Base Camp series. In this series, I break down all of the details of our 11-day trek to Annapurna Base Camp with Intrepid Travel. I'm sharing day 3 today, and on the 3rd day of our hike, we went from Ghorepani to Poon Hill, from Poon Hill back to Ghorepani, ate breakfast, and then hiked from Ghorepani to Tadapani. All in all, it was a nearly 15-hour hiking day, because we started at 4:30 a.m. to trek to Poon Hill. Unfortunately, on day 3, we encountered bad weather, poor visibility, and we got very, very, very limited views at Poon Hill. This is something that's completely out of your control, and it's just part of trekking. Some days you get really incredible views, and other days you get none. We were lucky enough to see glimpses of fishtail when we were up at Poon Hill in the morning, but we didn't get to see any peaks, and we really just sort of hiked to Poon Hill to say that we'd done it and to get to experience it at the top. Luke and I kind of look at it as a reason to return to Nepal someday, so silver linings and happy memories all around. From Poon Hill, as I mentioned, we hiked back down to the Sunny Hotel in Ghorepani. We repacked our bags and we ate breakfast. Then we headed from Ghorepani to Tadapani. The whole of day 3 was wet. There's not really a nice way to put it. We were hiking through thick jungle. There were heaps of stone steps, which were made super slippery because of all of the mist and the low clouds and the rain. We could not be happier to make it to our lunch stop because it was some reprieve from the wet outside. At lunch, Luke and I both indulged in some veggie curries and we split a Coke. It cost us roughly $13. From lunch, we continued on to Tadapani. No one was very keen to stop because the rain only worsened on our way to our final destination. So we kind of kicked it into high gear and moved quickly along the trail. We had to be a little bit slower than we would have liked because of the safety of walking down the stone steps when they were so wet. The other gift that the wet brought us were jungle leeches. There are leeches throughout the jungle portions of the trail, but when it's wet or damp, they get highly active, and we had a number of bites. I was quite lucky. I sort of made it through day 3 unscathed, but many people in our group did not, and they sacrificed a lot of blood to the happy leeches. The leeches actually got so bad, at one point our guides started dropping salt on our hiking boots to try and deter the leeches from climbing up our boots and into our socks. When we finally made it to our tea house in Tadapani, we were so lucky. The skies cleared just enough for us to see the peak of Fishtail. It was such a rewarding little glimmer of hope at the end of what was one of the probably dreariest and longest days on the trail. Our tea house in Tadapani had beautiful views of the peak of Fishtail, and we also had some really delicious food there. I had spring rolls, which were more like these massive veggie samosas, served with a side of chips or french fries, depending on where you're from. Luke and I also split apple pie, and you may not know this, but the Annapurna Base Camp trek is commonly referred to as the Apple Pie Trail. There are mixed versions of stories for how this came to be, but it's believed that some trucker along the way was staying at one of the tea houses and taught them to make a version of apple pie. And this became so popular with truckers that it just kind of became a thing and took off amongst all the tea houses. So you can get versions of apple pie at most tea houses along the Annapurna Base Camp Trail. Day 3 was the first day when we stopped at a tea house that they charged for hot showers. I think I mentioned in my first video that as you go along the trail, things become chargeable, like using the electricity to charge your phone or your camera battery, using the internet, taking a hot shower. Those things increase in price and become chargeable amenities as you go along the trail. Tadapani was where we saw our first charge for a hot shower, but Luke and I just sort of spot washed and called it good. We were honestly so tired, I don't think we cared if we stunk or if we were a little bit dirty. We just sort of spot cleaned ourselves, put on our pajamas, and then we started a really nice tradition as a group. It was called like peaks and valleys. Basically, we shared the highlight and the low light of our day every day after dinner as a group. And it was a really nice way to kind of recap the day that had been and, you know, share something that was maybe not so good, but also share the best part of our day. And they were always so different amongst the people in the group. It was a really nice way to get to know everyone and to kind of bring everyone together at the end of the day. We had started this tradition actually on day 1, but on day 3, we included our porters in it. And it was so lovely to hear what they had to say about their favorite parts of the day or the part that they struggled with the most. On day 3, for most of them, it was the rain and leeches, but it was lovely to hear them talk about like the highlight of their day, seeing the peak of fishtail or just making it to Tadapani or the meal that they had. And yeah, it felt very much like building camaraderie with everyone. So that's it. That is day 3. I promise I will get around to answering questions about accommodation and budget. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you want more Nepal content, be sure to check out my blog for in-depth guides so that you can plan your own trip.